Today I have with me my good friend Seth Blankenship. Seth is an NLP coach based in Florida, USA, and today we're going to have a discussion about goal setting and project management. Whereas the NLP Future Selfing exercise gives you the map, project management gives you the action plan. But once you get into your project management, you're probably going to run into some blocks and obstacles, such as doubt, perfectionist tendencies, and negative emotions. So in this video, we're going to look at the mindset, which will enable you to work methodically towards your desired outcomes and be an amazing success. So Seth, how would you like to approach this conversation?
One of the things that's on my mind is how to get going and to get into flow when you may not be particularly motivated. And I know that's a big buzzword now, motivation, but from like an NLP perspective, how can we better get into flow?
So then if you look at Stephen Kotler's model, he starts out with there's 4 stages. There's struggle, the relax and let go, the flow, and then the learning, consolidation. So the example he uses is that Einstein would be working on a project and then he would just push it a little bit and then he'd give up. And then he'd go to the kitchen and then he would take out his fiddle and then the brain waves would shift from beta down into alpha, burst of theta creativity, and then he would go, oh, aha, and he'd rush back to his lab, and then he was actually in flow. And the learning consolidation occurs during deep sleep, which is why it's really important to make sure that you eat well so your body can produce the neurotransmitters that you need, like dopamine and serotonin and whatever. And you get a good night's sleep so your unconscious mind can just process what actually happened during the day. So it's really, and that's a little bit different to the NLP model going back some decades, where it was all about like state management, being able to control your state, getting into state. This Kotler's model, I think, is much more functional because then it's just like everything comes down to basically 3 steps. You start out with struggle. Okay, well then you say, what are you struggling with? Okay, so then you go back, present state. You got your present state, that's your present situation. You've got to list that, got to know where you actually are, where you've come from, where you are. And then you have to know what your desired outcome is, which is where you want to go. And then you've got to have an idea of some of the steps and stages. And then what you do, and then this has to be compelling. So the desired outcome, it has to be compelling. It has to meet those NLP well-formed outcome questions. And then you choose one activity or one task and you set an intention which drives your attention onto the task at hand so you can focus in and concentrate. So you set your intent and then it's just like that sets a frame and then it's just like you just actually follow through. And everything, not everything, but just about everything will start with a struggle. So you might be feeling really creative, really lucid, really in flow, like at 10 o'clock at night. You're going to bed and you're thinking, oh, yeah, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Yeah. And it's really clear in your mind. You get up in the morning, it's Monday morning. And every morning it's Monday morning. And so you still have to get into flow. You've still got to do all your morning routine, your breakfast routine, etc., etc. And then you maybe have to face a whole lot of little blocks and obstacles, which is what life presents to us. There's all these other activities or admin activities, whatever they are. There's other things which somehow get in the way. So I'm talking about myself. See, so what I like to be able just to clear everything out of the way. I like to have my workstation clean. I don't want to have to deal with admin stuff like insurance and paying bills and fixing a computer or going shopping or this, that, and the other. I want to get all that out of the way so I can just focus in on the task. And the more important the task, the more important it is that I actually clear everything out of the way, because I don't want anything impinging on my my concentration. And so then you decide upon, so then you may have to deal with those little obstacles which get in the way. And so it could be, okay, I've got to finish that insurance proposal. And it's just like, yeah, I got a note there that last year I left at the last moment, but I hate it. You know, it's like, okay, but I got to do it. And so it goes on my to-do list for about every day for about a week, until yesterday I actually opened up the stupid Word document, because now you have to do it like on a Word document. And it's not like writing it out. So I got half the way through it, and then I thought, oh, okay, that's pretty good. And then tomorrow afternoon, maybe I can make a phone call and just double check, right? So that's like a way of getting little things out of the way. And then, of course, I have to go shopping and do this, that, the other. So you get those little things out of the way, and then it actually gives you the time to focus in on what's really important to you. See, but what you're dealing with all those so-called little blocks and obstacles one at a time. So then it gives you the space to actually to focus in.
So part of getting in flow and staying in flow is clearing the path and getting the obstacles out of the way. Which, that if someone has a lot of obstacles, it would make sense why they may be frustrated with a particular project, because they haven't gotten those little things out of the way first. And then when they try to go work on whatever the project is, these things are getting in the way. So that's a interesting distinction. And a takeaway for me is that to clear out the way before you're going to work on a project. And then even before that, like you had mentioned, to have the idea or the project already mapped out in your mind.
Yeah, and see, and Jordan Peterson, he takes it back to clean your room. So once again, it just comes back. There may be like a major project that you want to work on. Maybe you want to go to university or do something like this, or get a job or whatever, but you just find it a challenge. So he just says, well, just clean out your he gave advice to one of his clients to actually vacuum his room, but of course it was too big of a task. It was too big of a task, because the guy got the vacuum cleaner, it got to the doorway, and it was just lying there for a week. And then Jordan realized, no, he's got to chunk it down. And he says, okay, well, maybe just clean out your sock drawer. And then he goes, well, you don't have to tidy the whole sock drawer, just do half the sock drawer. And that's it. So you're chunking it down. So the thing is, you set the intent. So in this example, you actually go, oh, okay, I'm going to tidy the sock drawer. And all the guy has to do is open the drawer, look in there, take out a couple of socks, see that check that they match, pull them together so they match, put them to one side. And that task is actually completed. Then you get like a molecule of dopamine.
That was going to be my next question. Is it's almost like another component of this getting into flow is to do little tasks to gain momentum, but that momentum is really, like you mentioned, like serotonin kind of firing off in the brain, and then maybe loosening one up to get in the flow of getting things done or working on the project. That's pretty interesting.
So in the front end of flow, it's the norepinephrine and the dopamine. The serotonin is at the other, and that's the satisfaction of actually having completed something, which I think maybe comes hours later, not at the front end. So the front end is always the dopamine.
That's interesting. I've often heard creativity has been being mentioned, or inspiration being mentioned as like a spark. And maybe that's kind of like what that chemical does in terms of like the brain, or the network just kind of like fires them all up so you can kind of get the general idea, or the vision. And then as you act, it fires off different chemicals, and then you eventually progress and eventually get the task done.
That's an interesting metaphor. Like you're using a visual metaphor there of like, well, okay, well you're firing up the brain, you're lighting up the brain, you're getting a spark of inspiration. So it's a visual metaphor. So when I guess it could be different for different people depending on their representational system preference, whether it's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. But mine tends to be visual. And so like if I'm, every evening I try and do a bit of drawing or painting. And so once I got my day out of the way and I wash the dishes and I sit down and I've got like 45 minutes or something or other, and I open my little sketch pad. And so what I did was this, I actually gave myself a task. I thought, okay, what I'll do, I have an A4 sketch pad. I'd done about 8 or something drawings, but then I really wanted to practice on just little items. So I was just working on tiny little bits of paper. And then I thought maybe I should systematize that. So I went out and I bought myself some A5 pads. So I got this A5 pad, but then what I'll do, then I go, oh, okay, what I'm going to do, I'll complete the pad and I'll draw on every side of the page. So I have to do 50, right? So I set that like as a goal for myself. And then it's just like, I don't want to mess up the page. So I want to be fairly clear on what I'm going to draw. And so I might sort of like just do a tiny little sketch on just a small bit of paper, like a throwaway bit of paper. And what's actually happening is this. I'm looking for the inspiration. Like, what am I going to draw? And there are things that I like to draw. I like to draw landscapes and things like that, and a bit of fantasy stuff. And so it was like the idea sort of comes to mind, and it's always visual. Me personally, I've never had ideas come auditorily or kinesthetically. It's always an image arises in the mind. So the unconscious, so you're talking to yourself and go, what am I going to draw? What am I going to study in life or whatever? What's the business plan? Whatever. You're asking that of yourself, and the unconscious mind will then throw up images onto your screen of consciousness. But they'll probably be just fleeting little images. And so there I'm sitting there, and then there's like a thought of a mushroom. So there's a little picture of a mushroom, and then the word comes in, mushroom, and I go, huh. And then it's like, well, how do I draw a mushroom? And then I could do the left brain approach, which I hate. And I could go online, look for pictures of mushrooms, but I don't want to be left brain. It feels horrible. You know, I've done enough left brain admin stuff during the day. I just want to be able to just have the freedom to tap my essential energy. So anyway, so then I'm sitting there with a pencil, and it's just like, you just allow the pencil to move, and it's just like, huh. And I just do that, and it sounds nice, the pencil on the paper, and it feels nice, you know. Then you sharpen the pencil. This is a pen, I know. But then you sharpen the pencil and whatever, and then it makes a sharper line and whatever, and that feels really good. And then somehow in that, then I go, oh, mushroom and whatever. And it's like, am I close in, or is it a distant shot? And I think, oh, maybe it's close up. And so maybe it could be mushrooms, and maybe it could be like a little doorway going into like a little rock face, but it's all really, really small. It's all really tiny, like in those fantasy books, you know, like Lord of the Rings or whatever. And so that's my inspiration. And so all I do, I draw the mushroom, and I go, oh, I could do another little mushroom, and then I could do the doorway. And then it's the left brain thing. Well, how do you do the perspective for a doorway? So I have to do that. And then I do something else, and I go, okay, it's rocks. And it's just like, all I do is go, like that, like that, like that. And then afterwards, I sort of start just filling in the details. Then I realize I have to be systematic, because if I'm using a fountain pen, an ink pen, I have to start at the front, moving towards the back, because you can't cross over an ink line. You can't do that, see? You can do that with acrylics or oils or whatever, or pencil. You can't do it with ink pen. So there's a system in place. So there's like a balance. There's a utilization between the left brain and the right brain functions. So that's in terms of art, all right? But I don't think it's any different in anything else. whether it's just like me getting the new laptop stand, um, or you're prospecting for a client, or you're helping a client, I think it's much the same process.
That's pretty interesting. I think I learned like a little strategy that I didn't have before for creating art, which is you had mentioned you get images, then you talk to yourself, and then when the drawing takes place, it becomes more of like a kinesthetic type of thing. Like you'd mentioned, you kind of draw and you gestured like this, and you're talking about the feel of the pen. Do you think in terms of like project management that if people shift modalities that could get them out of flow? Because it seems like, a lot of people get inspired, they may watch a movie or they may see something in their environment that reminds them of doing something, and they get that initial flash. But then whenever they, maybe start walking towards something or to do something else that kicks them out of flow.
Give me an example of project management.
I mean, I guess anything could be a project. I mean, whether it's setting up lighting equipment, or if it is planning to make a piece of artwork. Maybe you don't have the materials, and then you have to decide which materials. And then, maybe there's a budget. Maybe you want to use the things that you have at home, or, are you going to go buy different things? So, I mean, I can pick a specific project that I'm working on now if it helps map out the system.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things I'm working on at work now is we're wanting to do more media for like selling skateboards and surfboards, and we've got a lot of guys at work that are subject matter experts. Like this guy knows a lot about longboarding, this guy about shortboarding, this guy about skateboarding, and on and on. So I've got to contact these guys and then let them know, hey, we're going to start shooting some videos, and then we want to get your feedback. So that's a project that I've got going, which is basically trying to manage multiple people to create YouTube videos or content.
Yes.
So but I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually okay. That's quite a project, right? So then you chunk it. So do you have like a film crew? Who's going to be doing the video production?
Yeah, so that's the other thing is we've got a guy that is our camera guy for he takes pictures for surfing and things like that, but we're trying to do it all ourselves to where it's minimal cost, just because we don't know what the return is going to be in the short term. But so it'd basically be us with some pretty basic equipment, like a cell phone maybe, and then a few little lights. But I mean, we could always increase the video quality and lighting and sound after everyone is maybe have made a video or two and are kind of getting in the flow. But
okay, so you got the first bit where you're actually going to film, and then what about the editing?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some software, and then another person that I worked with, they've got some software too. But then we could always outsource the editing.
Okay,
potentially too.
Well, this is
I'd have to match the cost out of both, actually.
Okay, this is great, all right? So you've got you want to do the video production, but you've never done it before. And so one person could go, oh, what we need to do, we need to get in all this, one way is you pay for a professional crew to come out and do it, which you can't afford, right? And then you go, okay, well, we'll do it ourselves. And then you could go, oh, well, maybe we're going to need all this fancy video equipment. But then you think smart and you go, what do we have? What do you have? Does anybody have a camera? And everybody pulls out their mobile phone and go, oh, we've got cameras, all right? So there you are. So you got a camera. You got a camera, and then it's just like, okay, so where are you going to film it? Out, because inside maybe it's a bit too dark, and so then you have to think in terms of lighting. But maybe you want to film inside your showroom, and so what do? You do a test, and you pull out the phone, and you film. So you take action, you get a result, and then. So, okay, because in your mind, you're all saying, yeah, what we're going to do is this. Take these glasses. What we're going to do is this. We're going to, Seth will use his phone and John will be in front of the camera talking about the surfboard. And then it just, in my mind, goes crazy because then it's like, what's he going to say, you know? Is he scripted? Is he going to have a teleprompter? Is he going to ad-lib? What questions are you going to ask? Who's going to do the interviewing? It gets really huge. And so, but all you do is you just bring it back and it's like.
So that process right there, what you just did, Abby, that's something that I think a lot of people don't have, maybe not yet, which is instead of you going into frustration mode and overwhelm mode, you went, let's reel it back or you know, whatever your exact words were. That little process of not getting overwhelmed. Can you speak on that at all? Like, or you know, it's just like, you know.
So what?
How do you know when you're about to? Okay, I need to reel it back. How do you know when to do that?
So all you do. Okay, so you want to film. Okay, let's just bring it back to here. So what I have a studio out there, then I got my office studio here, and I thought what I would do for the introductions for these videos is use the teleprompter. So then it makes it a bit more precise at the beginning. And it's just like, oh, God, you know, it means I have to drag the equipment around and whatever, but I've already moved the lights around. And so then I was thinking, okay, so I tried it before, and then I thought maybe I should actually use my DSLR camera, the GH4. And I tried it before, and it's just like, it was really tedious. I go, okay. So I get the GH4, I got two of them, and I have to go through, do the settings, and it's tedious. And it's just like this, that, and the other, and then but I have to do it. And then I actually set the camera up there, and I look at it, and I go, this isn't good. So I set it up. And when I set it up, switched it on, that's when I got the feedback, and I go, this is not going to work because it's a different camera to the webcam. The image quality will be different, etc., etc. Plus, I have to get the HDMI cable out. And who am I going to connect the HDMI cable to the computer, or am I going to connect it into the monitor? That's another thing. Here I am looking at the camera at the screen, but when I go to the other side of the screen, I can't see the screen. And so then there's all this shit about actually setting up monitors, etc. So it's a lot of work. So anyway, so I took the action and realized that the DSLR was not going to be the best way. I just have to work with the webcam, which reminded me of a guy called Mark Dice on BitChute, who said, he said, editing takes a lot of time. And so he was making a certain standard of video, but it was taking too much time. So because of that, he's gone back to his other method, which isn't as professional, but at least he gets the videos made. And so that for me was like yeah. So these videos don't have to be perfect, these podcasts, because we're working with a webcam. And so I get rid of the DSLR, use the webcam, and then I thought, but it would be good to have the teleprompter. So the teleprompter, it's not a professional teleprompter, you know, which they put in front like of the camera. What it is, it's actually just on a laptop, which I got some years ago. And you just position it just behind the camera, but at some distance. So then your eyes, you don't get the eye movement. Anyway, so I brought out the teleprompter stand, but it was too high for this setting. It wouldn't go low enough. So frustrating. So then what do? I looked online to get a new stand, played around with that. There was a lot of confusion and frustration with that, but I did find a solution. But in the meantime, I wanted to be able to do this shoot with you. And then I thought, well, what do I do? And I thought, well, okay, maybe I could just lift up the computer monitor. So what I did yesterday, I lifted up the computer monitor so then it actually matched the teleprompter, and then I did a couple of test recordings. And that felt good. But then I realized that I can't use those recordings because I still need to get the footage of you. But what I was doing, I wasn't just thinking I knew what was going to work. I actually took physical action. Anyway, I did a couple of takes and I thought, oh, that's okay. And then I thought, in the meantime, when I'm waiting for the new stand to arrive, I thought, what can I do? What can I use? Anyway, eventually this morning, I brought out the ironing board. So I brought out the ironing board and I thought, well, I could lift up the ironing board. I go, I don't want to lift up the ironing board. What's going to happen? It's going to break or something's going to go wrong. It always does. So I'll leave the ironing board as it is, and I looked around for some boxes. So I put a box on top, but then it was too high. Then I got another box, and it was perfect, pretty well perfect. So I got the laptop sitting on a box on the ironing board at about 2.5 meters away from me. So what I'm saying is you make progress, you do what you can. It's rough, but you actually get an outcome. And so that's what you do at work. You just video with a cell phone and then edit it, see what it looks like. Probably looks terrible, but it's okay, right? And then you just look for how you could improve. And so every day you just sort of look for, and it doesn't have to be a methodical improvement, it's random improvements. So if the guy who's doing the talking, if he actually just learns to write a script out, memorize it, so when he does his introduction, it's a bit more professional, that's progress.
Wow. That's awesome. I took away two things. The first one, or the most recent one that you had mentioned, was that there seems to be two important distinctions in feedback. Getting feedback from doing experiments and actually acting versus, let's just say that you're talking back and forth with someone else about what they think can work. I think that is a dangerous strategy for people that are prone to procrastinating or maybe not getting certain things done, is looking for feedback that's not self-generated. So that was one takeaway. We can talk on that if you think that's important, but it seems to be pretty important from my perspective. And the other one was that feedback doesn't come, like most people's projects are step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. But whenever you go to work on it, the feedback you're getting, you'd mentioned, can come at random places within the process. Step 1 may be recording, but there's a bunch of components to that. And then, like you mentioned, the video could get better, or you could learn something, or you learn how to do the pitch. I don't know. That was a big distinction for me, that while you can plan linearly, don't expect your plan to develop in that same order, because you have to do different things to solve different problems that you don't know you have yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not about being linear. It's just taking random steps towards your major desired outcome. It's just like random steps. So it's just like this. You might say, well, I want to move down this path, down this roadway, and you get these project managers, they have their milestones, But it's really, to me, it's really left brain. It's like, yeah, we're going to have this milestone, and then what will you see, hear, and feel? How will we know when the milestone will be completed when we've done this? You know, it's just so left brain. It just, I just can't handle that. Because in real life, I guess if you're an admin officer, you could actually write out those milestones, and then somehow you just send it down the chain of command to the people who actually do the work. And then they report back in, you know. But those people at the top, they're not the smart ones. The people at the bottom are the smart ones. So you're actually on the road, and you've got a big goal. So you want to be able to produce your YouTube videos for your surf shop, all right? And that's actually really quite a big challenge. But then it's just all you have to really do is you take a few steps down the path to filming with your cell phone, and you make a bit of progress, and then you get a bit stuck, and then you just go, okay, let's just try this. Let's talk. Who's going to be demonstrating the surfboard? And so you have a chat with him, and your camera work doesn't get any better at all, but you're working with the board rider. And then it could be, let's film somebody coming into the shop. So someone just walks into the shop, and you go, hey, Susie, you know, welcome to our shop. We're just trying to learn how to do a YouTube video. Can we ask you some questions? We're just practicing, you know. And then you get the footage, and then how do I get it off the camera? Oh, you got to get it off the camera, and somehow you got to get it onto your computer. So you have to know where it is on the camera. Then you either got to use, what do they call it? Wi-Fi or a cable to get it to your computer. And then what format? And it's a whole lot of stuff, but it's just random. And then you go, how are we going to edit it? We're going to use Premiere or this, that, or the other. And it's just random. So you take little steps down these little paths. It's like they're all over the place, but you are actually making some progress.
That's awesome. I didn't expect to have this feedback today, and that's really interesting. It's a good perspective. I had something else regarding project management, but it slipped my mind at the moment. Is there anything regarding project management that you'd like to touch on or speak on?
Okay, so what I would say is don't focus on your negative emotions.
How is that done? I know that could be a 5-year course, but just one quick strategy.
It's just
because like earlier, you know when not to let even inspiration overwhelm you, which you would think it could be a good thing, but I guess both sides of the spectrum can be debilitating.
Well, see, I think sometimes people actually focus too much on the emotion, and when the person's actually in the emotion, they're associated into the emotion. They feel like the emotion is controlling them. You know, so you get people who have a problem with anxiety, and then they actually amp it up until it becomes panic. And it's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But how do you do the process of anxietying yourself? You know, how do you do the process of panicking? That's really, really interesting. That's fascinating. Can you show me how you do that? Can you tell me how you do that? Let's map out the strategy. And so what we've just done here is we're moving up to a meta level, a meta state, where with a frame of curiosity and fascination. So I guess you could say this is mindfulness. We are becoming mindful of the process that you're running. I hate to use that word mindfulness, but anyway, it's like what you're doing is you're learning to be a dispassionate observer. You are not the mind, the body, or the emotions. You are the pure witnessing consciousness, okay? And so if the person's experiencing anxiety, it's like, yeah, okay, You're experiencing anxiety. Okay, let's acknowledge it. Okay, but don't do what I think some healthcare professionals do, where they pander to that. They pander to it. Oh, you poor thing. Tell us about how you feel. And this goes on, year after year after year about how they feel. No, it's just a feeling. And that's the thing, making a distinction that you have feelings. And so if you're feeling flat or lonely or bored or listless or stuck, it's just a feeling. That's important to understand it. It's just a feeling. It is not who you are. And if you are aware that you are feeling stuck, then you are not the stuckness. You are the one who is aware that you feel stuck. Do you get that?
Yeah, that's
so
makes a lot of sense.
So then hopefully the person gets fascinated and they go, like, I feel like shit. I feel stuck. I just can't move. And then rather than actually doing what you see so many people do, where they reach for the chocolate or they reach for the energy drink or the cigarette or the marijuana or this, that, or the other, they're reaching for all those things, which will then actually begin to change those neurotransmitters. They're trying to hack flow, right? By having the chocolate or the cigarette, they're trying to hack flow. But here it's just like, no, just learn to suffer. Just learn to be a human, all right? So there's something that, and if a person's feeling boredom, I think when people feel bored, it's like they don't have any images in mind of what they could be doing, all right? And they'll go, oh, I don't know what I want to do on this now, on this, that. It's like, yeah, okay. But be aware that you are in a state of boredom. Be aware that you're in a state of boredom. And then it's just like, does that boredom serve you? You're asking intelligent questions. And you ask yourself, is this what you want to be feeling? Do you want to be feeling bored? Do you want to go through life feeling bored? And it's just like, well, maybe I don't. So then if you don't want to go through life feeling bored, what would you like to go through life feeling? And so we're shifting it from the present state, from the negative, we're shifting across to the positive desired outcome. So that, and in doing that, the person's actually chunking up to a meta level, and they're coaching themselves. And it's just like, well, I don't want to feel bored. I want to really do something with my life. It's like, yeah. What do you want to do with your life? You're like, well, I don't know. Well, think. What could you be doing? So we use these modal operators, all right, and the person starts thinking about what they could be doing. I could do this, I could do that, could do this. Yeah, well, what really interests you? Do you have any passions? Whatever. And then as you're running this process, the brain starts functioning in a much more positive manner. And there's little bits of dopamine, little molecules of dopamine or whatever. And the person starts to think, well, yeah, maybe I could actually. Yeah, maybe I could start a YouTube channel. Yeah, and there's that surf shop down the road. And maybe I could go down to the surf shop and just ask them if they're looking for a photographer or a camera operator or a boom operator or someone to stand there and hold up, whatever, and the person starts moving.
Yeah. Well said.
Okay, and in that, the negative emotion has disappeared.
It's funny. You can almost see the whole process, and just listening and kind of watching what you're doing, it's almost like you've got like this this habit of staying focused on whatever your task is, and then anytime you may slide off, instead of going all the way into the negative emotion for it to take over, you have like some dialogue that kicks in. It's like, it's almost like you may ask, okay, what can I do to get back on track? Or I'm wondering if it's a strategy to, anytime that you feel an emotion that doesn't align with whatever your vision is, do you have questions that fire off? Because that seems like it would be a pretty good strategy to help stay aware, because it seems like awareness is a big part of this, is and using that awareness as feedback to pull you back to whatever your task at hand is. And I know that may be kind of vague, but just kind of something that I had noticed and we'll probably use in the future too for a strategy for staying focused and not getting off track. And if off track, start to ask myself questions that realign me.
Okay, so as you said, like awareness is the key. Awareness is the key. And that, I think, is the distinction between us and animals, is that we have awareness, or what I call it, metacognition. You know, we have awareness. But for a lot of people, I think it's really minimal. They have a little bit of awareness, but they do have, everyone has some awareness. And that is where meditation techniques can be really useful to help develop the awareness, though not all meditation techniques develop awareness. And what Osho made really clear was his meditation should be approached with an intensity and an urgency as if it is the last moment of your life. So if you frame meditation as like, oh, this is a way to relax, just chill out, to take it easy, just get into be one with the tree or something, you know, it's like, yeah. But then if you bring in compelling futures, so remember Richard Bandler talked about compelling futures. So everyone has like a negative compelling future. If you go down the path of just smoking and drinking and just wasting your time having stupid arguments and discussion, wasting your time on social media, you know, being bored, sitting in front of a TV, going on Instagram, or whatever it actually is. If you just follow that path, where are you going to be like 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when you're 65 years of age? And that negative future should scare the life out of you. All right? Because you've wasted your life. And then on the other hand, with your positive compelling future, it's like you just think, So if I was to accept life as a challenge, all these things which come along as a challenge, you accept that challenge, and then you just step up and you just deal with it. And then slowly you get better and better and better and better until you're like 85 years of age. And then you're writing the last chapter of your life and you look back on life and you feel really good about yourself because you've got friends around you, family, got some investment properties in the bank, you're in pretty good health, and you feel really proud about yourself. You feel really good because you squeeze the juice from life. You squeeze the juice from each and every moment. You didn't waste your time with stupid activities and stupid conversations. Everything had to have a meaning that was meaningful to you. All right? So every activity, everything you do has to be meaningful to you. The more meaningful to you, the better you feel at the end of the day. All right? The brain will just produce all those wonderful neurotransmitters and you get to feel really good because you did the hard yards, you knuckled down, you focused in, you were conscientious, and you took action and you learned. And so what goes on in my mind is 2 or 3 little things. It's like compelling futures, and life is short. Life is really short. You only really have this moment. That's all you have. And so are you going to, it's precious. It's like whether you think God gives you this life or existence gives you this life, doesn't matter. You have this life. You have this experience. So are you going to waste this experience, this opportunity? Or are you going to squeeze the juice from it the best that you possibly can? And that is what actually reminds me. It's just like, I want to make sure that from every conversation or every activity, it's actually going to be meaningful to me in some way. And that's why I get frustrated when I have to deal with computer programs and stuff. You know, you go to a website and They upgrade they upgraded OBS a few weeks back, and it cost me 3 or 4 days to get back to the earlier version. It's just like, to me, that is a terrible waste of time. I just want to get things just working, so that I can have some experiences and achieve some outcomes. So when you get like a mindset like that, so it's not about getting the latest software and the latest software and the latest software. Who cares? It's just like, all you need is the pen, and then you can write a book. All you need is a pencil, and you can make a drawing. You don't have to have the upgrades to the latest pen,
Yeah. Wow, that was quite the experience. As you were speaking there, we had talked about it before, to where it's almost like, don't be overcome by either frustration or inspiration. It's all about balance and staying really focused on the moment and on the task at hand. And when you said that this moment's all we really got, I don't know, it makes you focus and not be overcome by emotions. And it's not really like an emotional state you're trying to access, but more of generating more meaningful activities as you go along. And that's a pretty big deal. I'll think more about it, because I'd like to talk to you more about that process, because I feel like that's kind of the zone that like entrepreneurs or people that are doing a lot of businesses or that have a lot of businesses. There's a show about Mark Wahlberg, and he has like a ton of different businesses, but the businesses that he gets in is because of the people that he connects with and relates with. And I think it comes back to meaningfulness and generating that. So the topic of today was kind of like project management. But the thing about NLP is, okay, well, what's managing the project manager? And it seems like values, meaning, and things like that are kind of some of the bigger drivers that facilitate this process. And I know you talk a lot about values, but I just wanted to put that in there, that while we can pick our projects, it's very important to make sure that those projects are in alignment with our values, so that we get a higher meaningfulness out of it, which is more likely to end in success for us.
Yeah, it's very important. So, as you say, what manages the project management? And it's those, it's like you say, values, your values and your attitudes, your identities, and your meanings, and there's all that sort of stuff. And you just have to keep in mind there's two sides to the brain. We have like two sides to our personality. There's the like in the left hippocampal region, that's where you've got like the language, that's sort of like the language center of the brain. That's like the left brain bureaucrat. That's all that left brain thinking activities we have to do. But then in the right hippocampal region, it's like you have your silent sense of self, which is more like where you're a human being. So the left hippocampal region, you're human doing, and in the right, you're a human being. You're just being. And that's when you get into flow, especially if it's something to do with art or something. That's when I think you're really experiencing. And I think that for a lot of people, that's underdeveloped, that silent sense of self. And as soon as they actually, you can sort of tell those people, you're having a conversation with them, and as soon as you actually pause to think, they want to, well, what are you doing? Are you still there? It's just like, so you can tell on the phone when you're speaking, there's left brain or right brain. So it's like being able just to be. And that doesn't mean that all you're doing is just sitting there with your eyes closed in deep meditation. It's just like you're just sitting there. So you could just be there with your girlfriend sitting on the beach. And you're not actually talking about anything, but you're there together and you're just being, and somehow there's that connectedness there. Or it could be when you're actually drawing, or it could be when you're actually just working on your as an entrepreneur, you're working on your project, and you know, you can be there really left brain and sort of writing down all the points that what you want to actually to achieve, or you could just be. And let's say you've got the surf shop, and it's just like, you know, the left brain would like to take it down that path, but if you just allow it, maybe the right brain could take you down a similar path, because you have to be left brain to be able to work in the world and have business, but it could just be slight difference, and it could be that difference which makes you stand out in the marketplace.
And that's something that I tend to do a lot of, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, is really looking at all the systems in place and trying to get my outcome without necessarily disturbing the system so much. I'll be more specific. Regarding the video, I had the insight now after speaking with you that I'll probably have a quicker and more effective approach by catching these people kind of off guard. Like maybe they're one of the guys is putting together a skateboard, and then I roll up real quick and say, hey, you know, what are you doing here? You know, what are these parts? And ask the questions. And then because I don't know, it seems like a good strategy for getting the guys that I want to work with on board and capturing the content, because it seems a lot more organic, and it's not like, okay, well, how do I look and what am I going to say? And it's kind of bypassing that whole thing. So sorry, I was kind of talking that out for myself, but yeah, right brain versus the left brain.
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. So there you're at work. So what you do, you have to set the frame to all the employees that you've got to ask them, look, we'll be filming randomly, and we just need to let you know. We need to get your permission to be able to film you, you know, or it's part of your job requirements that we do film you. So if you're actually just working on something and I turn up with a camera, I just want you to know that we're just doing it for our YouTube channel and just to interact with me as you would normally interact with me. So then you're not shifting into that left brain functioning. The person's just actually there just as they are. And then it could be that you put a sign on the door, and when you want to do some filming in the afternoon, you might put a sign on the door and it says, notice, you know, all customers, please be warned, or whatever it is, take note that when you come in, you're coming into a film set, and when you come into the shop in the afternoon, that you may be filmed. And we'll actually check with you after we filmed you. You know, if you don't like it, we'll delete it. But we just want to let you know that we're just making these spontaneous films with our staff and our customers. And that solves a lot of production problems.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, so I initially, you know, talking about this, I learned a lot, and the things that I thought I knew about project management, thank goodness they didn't come up, because those are kind of like old ways of thinking, or like left brain, I feel like a lot of left brain stuff is out there where you go on Google or download an app or project management software. It's a lot about the left brain, but this type of talk and NLP seems to be right brain, but also how to manage both sides and balance things out to get an outcome. So I've gotten a lot from this. Did you want to add anything else, or any like resources or references that people could learn more about this process, or future selfing exercise and course that you have?
Well, what I would recommend people do is they go to my website, abbyeagle.com. The links are below the video. And sometimes you'll notice that there's always some free courses available every month. And just see if you can get a copy of the NLP Future Selfing course. Either buy it, say about $47 or something, or if you can get a free copy of it use a promo code. That's a really, really good start, because the NLP Future Selfing course gives you the basic approach to NLP. Present state, desired outcome, etc., etc. You're working all the way down through. So do that. That would be a really good start.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like when you do that process, let's just say you get the course, you do the process, and then okay, you're at the end of it. You feel charged, and maybe you work on some stuff, or maybe right at the end of it, you have to go do something else. Doing that course is going to serve as a reference experience to when maybe the next day or next few days you'll think about it, and then that'll be part of the inspiration process to get things done or to get your project completed. So that's just what I've noticed, and I think that's kind of what that course is meant to do, is to inspire and lay out how to go from where you're at to where you want to be, ideally. So
yeah, that'll help you get into flow.